Hello, I'm Kirby and I form part of the Willingness team. I am a speech and language pathologist, and today I'll be discussing some toys we can use to enhance the child's communication. These toys help to enrich the child's vocabulary by exposing the child to different nouns, for example, for different animal sounds and different categories of vocabulary, which the child, through exposure, can imitate and can learn how to associate a label for a word we use to the real object in the real world. So for the first activity we can use with the child, here I have a farm set, so it's basically it's a form of a house, and the child has different opportunities to learn language. So as we can see, there are different animals on the house itself, so we can, for example, encourage the child to point and imitate the word. So we can use, for example, look, it's a pig, for example, and we can make the sound with the child to make it more interactive, and it also helps the child to encourage him or her to imitate. There is also the opportunity to practice skills. So for example, we can put the animal in the house or out of the house, and that helps the child to learn how we can locate different objects and how to refer to the location of an object. So for example, the cat is in the house and the child can actually do it and practice the skill. We can also work on the color of the animal. So for example, if it's a brown horse, for children even who are developing their ability to combine words, so around 2 years, we might observe that the child can now use a word combination. So they might say brown horse, and we're always expanding upon their vocabulary. So even if we observe that the child does know the word horse, we can still use these activities to expand upon their language a bit further, whereby they can start combining a word or using a phrase, or teaching the child how to even use a sentence. So the horse is in the house, the horse is out of the house, for example, and this is an interactive activity which even children can do even in groups, whereby they can even take turns, for example, and learn how to wait for their turn, which is also an important skill for communication, since when we communicate, we need to learn that we need to wait for the other, for the listener to speak, and then we then respond effectively. So that is one way of how we can help communication using a farm set. So for the next activity, we can see here there's an activity we call Mr. Potato, and which speech and language pathologists are surely familiar with, because it's an activity we use a lot, since it engages a lot of language skills we can use with the child when using this activity. So for example, here we have the different body parts we can practice with the child. So we can remove the body parts and then encourage the child to communicate, and we can do this through different means. So for example, we can give the child a choice. So here I have the eyes and the nose, and for example, asking the child to choose one. So choosing the eyes, for example, or choosing the nose. And then we're also helping the child to practice the word and engage in an activity with the adult or with another child perhaps as well. We can also target different colors. So here I have a pink ear and a red nose, for example. So we can teach the child that an object can have a different color, a particular color we can refer to, and here we're also encouraging the child to use a phrase as well, a short phrase, and then we can go on to pointing to the different body parts. So we can place the ears and encourage one finger pointing to teach the child that when we point and we're using a word, it's also a mode of communication, and it supports the child's communication further. We're also using words such as, for example, Mr. Potato is happy, since he is smiling here. So we're teaching the child even awareness of different emotions and different skills which they can use to communicate even their feelings to an adult. Here we have the hands, which we can use even as a social gesture, such as pretending Mr. Potato is waving, for example, to the child to help initiate an imitation of the wave gesture. And here he's also wearing a hat, so we can say that he's wearing a black hat, and we can expose the child even to other clothes, for example, or pretending that Mr. Potato is going somewhere, or he's eating, drinking, and like that. We're even using different verbs which the child can incorporate into his language use. So that would be some ideas as to how we can use this activity with the child. For the third activity, we have cause and effect play, which is also an important form of play children use and which is highly linked to communication and language. The reason being that cause and effect, it usually includes toys which, for example, we press a button and something happens. So in this case, I have different shapes which a child can insert and then press a button for the shape to go down into the house. And this teaches the child that when we communicate, our needs are being met. And this is the way the child reflects it even through play. So initially the child learns it through an object, through a toy, and eventually they also learn in communication. So when I communicate, an adult will respond to my needs. And finally, I have stacking rings here, which are also a common toy we use a lot with children. Here we can work on color recognition once again. So we can either give choice to the child, a choice of two, and we're choosing a particular color. We can also work on big and small, since the rings have different sizes. So we can encourage the child to expand upon the language further as well. And we can also initiate a sense of counting the different rings, or even taking turns. So here we're learning that we have to wait and then it's our turn again. And that's also an important skill we use during our communication. And that brings me to the end of some activities we can use with our children to encourage language development.